meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. counterpart Donald Trump concluded in Alaska with no deal regarding the Ukrainian conflict. In Bolivia, it has been confirmed that this Sunday's elections will see one of the largest deployments of international observers ever, with more than 500 people. And in Pakistan, recent flash floods in the northeastern province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa left at least 340 people dead and over 23 injured, many more missing. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Russian President Vladimir Putin and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump held a press conference Friday after holding a summit meeting in Alaska to discuss the Ukrainian conflict. President Putin affirmed that talks had been held in a constructive and mutual respect atmosphere and thanked the U.S. President for his willingness to find a solution to the Ukraine conflict. The Russian leader also highlighted the history shared by both nations, especially the one linked to Alaska, a U.S. state a few kilometers away from Russian territories. The Euro-Asian head of state expressed his hope that the issues agreed on during the meeting could lead to a lasting peace between Ukraine and Russia. For his part, U.S. President Donald Trump described the encounter as very productive and said there were still some issues which need to be dealt with. He said he would immediately communicate with his European allies and with Ukrainian President Zelensky to let them know about the results of the summit. President Putin emphasized that the talks took place in an atmosphere of mutual respect.
Our negotiations took place in a constructive and mutually respectful atmosphere. They were very thorough and fruitful. I would like to hope that the understanding we have reached will allow to get closer to that goal and pave the way for peace in Ukraine. We expect that Kiev and European capitals will perceive all this in a constructive manner and will not create any obstacles, will not make attempts to disrupt the emerging progress through provocation or behind-the-scenes intrigues.
And for his part, U.S. President Donald Trump highlighted the productivity of the meeting with his Russian counterpart and thanked all of President Putin's team.
So, just to put it very quickly, I'm going to start making a few phone calls and tell them what happened. But we had an extremely productive meeting and many points were agreed to. There are just a very few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant, but we have a very good chance of getting there. We didn't get there, but we have a very good chance of getting there. I would like to thank President Putin and his entire team.
And the meeting is the first between both nations' leaders since 2019 when they met during the G20 summit held in Osaka, Japan. They had met 4 other times before, the first one in July 2017 at the G20 summit in Germany just a few months after Donald Trump entered the White House for his first term. They came face-to-face once more in 2017 at an economic forum in Vietnam and later in July 2018 during a closed-door talks held in Helsinki, Finland. Finally, the pair met again during the G20 summit in Argentina in November 2018. The current summit in Alaska is full of expectation, but the international community will seize the gathering as a potential opportunity to reach a ceasefire in Ukraine. And following the conclusion of the Alaska summit between the U.S. and Russian presidents, the head of the White House, Donald Trump, held a call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and a video conference with several European and North Atlantic Treaty Organization leaders. This was confirmed by the president's spokeswoman, Caroline Leavitt, who added that the call with the Ukrainian president was extensive and occurred on the flight back to Washington without providing further details. U.S. media reported that President Trump had also held a video conference with President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, with Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, with the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, and with representatives of the governments of Germany, Finland, Poland, Italy, and the United Kingdom. Regarding this meeting, details are not available. Once the news was released early this Saturday, Zelensky confirmed that he will be in Washington on August 18th. Amidst U.S. trade sanctions against Brazil, President Lula da Silva attended the inauguration of a Chinese electric vehicle factory in Sao Paulo. Our colleague Ignacio Lemos with the details.
En una antigua fábrica del interior de Sao Paulo.
In a former factory in the interior of Sao Paulo that Mercedes-Benz left in 2020, Chinese automaker GWM inaugurated a plant that will generate 1,000 new jobs in Brazil by the end of this year. The inauguration took place during a week of connections between BRICS leaders, in search of solutions to the impacts of the tariffs imposed by the Donald Trump administration.
The idea of telling the world that Brazil is a terrible country to do business in is not true. I cannot accept that the president of a country the size of the United States can tell so many lies about Brazil. Brazil is not a rich country. It does not have the gross domestic product of the United States or China, but it has a people that deserves respect.
The Chinese company plans to invest $740 million in the country by 2026, which already includes the opening of the new factory. From 2027 to 2032, an additional $1 billion is expected to be invested. Chinese representatives expressed their support for Brazil amidst the wave of United States attacks.
Today, Chinese-Brazilian cooperation has not only established solid foundations in sectors such as energy, agriculture, telecommunications, and infrastructure, but is also rapidly expanding into emerging sectors such as the digital economy, green economy, pharmaceutical industry, artificial intelligence, aviation, and the space sector.
United States President Donald Trump is critical of the closeness to China. Brazilian authorities say they do not intend to apply reciprocal measures to United States tariffs.
Foreign trade brings people closer together, establishes respect, and increases efficiency. I am better in one sector, so I sell to you. You are better in another, so you sell to me. Society as a whole benefits, which is why foreign trade and multilateralism are so important. China is Brazil's largest buyer and biggest trading partner, while the United States is its largest investor.
The company was first approved by the Brazilian government's Green Mobility Program for the production of plug-in hybrid models in Brazil. The production goal is 60% domestic content by 2026.
Ignacio Lemos y Julia Nassif para teleSUR.
We now have our first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Peruvian President Dina Boluarte's recent visit to Santa Rosa Island on August 15th has further escalated tensions in a long-standing border dispute with Colombia. Boluarte's uncompromising declaration that Peru will not cede even an inch of territory reflects a confrontational stance that risks inflaming an already delicate situation. The island, home to approximately 3,000 residents, is situated in a region where river boundaries are prone to natural shifts. Colombia has called for a fair and transparent bilateral review to address the border uncertainty, while Peru's recent move to elevate Santa Rosa to district status appears to sidestep diplomatic norms. Critics argue that Boluarte's hardline rhetoric and actions risk undermining efforts for peaceful resolution and could isolate Peru diplomatically in the region. And in Bolivia, has been confirmed that this Sunday's elections will see one of the largest deployments of international observers ever, with more than 500 people. Our correspondent Freddy Morales with the details from La Paz.
International observers, in this case from the European Union, began arriving and traveling around the country a month ago. Sunday's elections have raised international interest.
19 observadores electorales.
There are 19 election observers from the European Union with 135 observers,
135 observadores, la OEA con 89 observadores,
the OAS with 89 observers, and others such as the Andinian Parliament.
El Parlamento Andino, el Parlamento del Mercosur.
The Mercosur Parliament, 14 international observer institutions, and 5 national observers will participate.
Y 5 observadores nacionales.
La Cancillería también anunció que está
The Foreign
garantizado
Ministry also announced that elections are guaranteed to take place this Sunday in 22 countries.
Estamos coadyuvando a través
We are working through consulates and embassies to ensure that Bolivians can also vote abroad on Sunday.
bolivianas el día domingo también puedan ejercer sus votos en el exterior. Se han establecido en 22
Voting will take place in 22 countries, in 154 precincts, at 1,200 polling stations that we have in the Foreign Service.
que tenemos en el servicio exterior.
La policía informó que en sujeción al protocolo
The
para
police reported that, in accordance with the protocol for such occasions, it has ordered all its personnel to remain in their barracks, and has a contingency plan in place to act in the event of unforeseen circumstances.
Estos 25,000 hombres y mujeres que van a estar.
These 25,000 men and women who will be in specific areas of the general election event have nothing to do with the rest of the Bolivian police force. They will be involved in ordinary routine prevention and assistance services, case management, and the handling of common crimes in the various institutions.
De casos de atención de delitos comunes.
el presidente Luis Arce en las últimas horas durante la
In recent hours, during the inauguration of a new commander of the armed forces, President Luis Arce called on the population to strengthen democracy by turning out en masse to vote this Sunday.
Hay que respetar el proceso democrático.
We must respect the democratic process. We have differences, and these differences must be resolved at the ballot box democratically. That is why we take this opportunity to urge the Bolivian people once again to go to the polls next Sunday to vote for their best option.
De que vote por su mejor opción. De que hagamos un tránsito.
So that we can make a long transition in a peaceful and democratic manner. Democratically, so that those of us who entered this great house with our brother Gilada through the front door may also leave through the front door.
También lo salgamos por la puerta grande.
El Tribunal Supremo Electoral.
The Supreme Electoral Court reported that more than 500 international observers were accredited, the highest number recorded in more than 2 decades of national elections. 8 candidates are participating in this election, 6 of whom are from the radical and moderate right, and 2 candidates from the left, born of the movement towards socialism.
Del movimiento al socialismo. Freddy Morales, teleSUR, Bolivia.
This Friday, thousands of young Venezuelans mobilized across the country to support President Nicolás Maduro and reject the statements made by U.S. Attorney General Pamela Bondi, which they describe as false and offensive to their dignity and that of the nation. Young people, social movements, and local government authorities took to the streets of Caracas and other Venezuelan cities in defense of the nation's sovereignty, peace, and the Bolivarian revolution. Demonstrators denounced what they describe as an attempt to discredit the nation's image internationally and reaffirm their commitment to its independence. Political and community leaders recalled that Venezuela's government promotes peace, combats drug trafficking, and is willing to defend the homeland against any foreign interference. Presidents of Mexico and Guatemala, Claudia Sheinbaum and Bernardo Arévalo, held their first face-to-face meeting Friday, where they discussed issues such as gang violence, border security, and the possible extension of the Maya Train to Guatemala and eventually Belize. Sheinbaum highlighted the importance of the project as a regional economic driver, while Arévalo supported the idea but cautioned that it should not affect protected ecosystems and that alternative routes should be evaluated to minimize environmental impact. They also discussed the increase in violence at the border, which recently led to the displacement of Mexican families to Guatemala. Both leaders will soon meet with the Prime Minister of Belize to continue the dialogue on the Maya Train and other regional issues. And the leaders of Mexico, Guatemala, and Belize also announced that they were creating a tri-national nature reserve to protect the Mayan rainforest.
Nos hemos comprometido a cooperar para fomentar.
We have committed to cooperate in promoting the sustainable use of the forest and conserving it by protecting the human and cultural rights of the indigenous communities in this territory, working together to respond to common threats.
Responder juntos a las amenazas comunes.
Now for our second break, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final break, don't go away. Welcome back. The northwest of Pakistan has been hit by severe flooding, with the death toll now standing at over 340 and at least 23 people reported to be injured. The National Disaster Management Authority confirmed that at least 31 were missing after landslides in the JB region. During rescue efforts, a total of 1,834 civilians were rescued and evacuated, including tourists. According to the latest report, the emergency agency alerted that more than 118 homes were affected, 45 were destroyed, and 75 suffered partial damage. And Afghanistan is facing a severe water crisis that is driving widespread displacement across the country. In early 2025, extreme weather events including floods, droughts, heavy snow, and cold waves affected nearly 5 million people, with more than 175,000 internally displaced due to climate-related disasters. Rural communities have been hardest hit, suffering damage to homes, farmland, and infrastructure, while over 80% report lacking access to formal water systems. Food insecurity is rising as drought and displacement disrupt agriculture and market supply, forcing many Afghans to migrate within and beyond the country's borders. The capital city of Kabul is particularly vulnerable, with groundwater levels having dropped by as much as 30 meters in the last decade due to over-extraction, rapid urban growth, and climate change. The French Meteorological Service has maintained an orange alert in 54 departments of the metropolitan area due to temperatures exceeding 40 degrees Celsius. The meteorological agency reported that the intense heat wave reached record temperatures of up to 42.9 degrees in some areas, including Ardèche region. It also reported that more than 100 people were taken to the emergency room for dehydration or heat stroke. Civil Protection recommended residents to stay hydrated and avoid physical exercise, especially vulnerable people. And on August 16th marks 100 days since Pope Leo XIV stepped onto the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica as the new leader of the Catholic Church. The Supreme Pontiff has dedicated his first few months to listening to those in need, seeking to lead the Church to dialogue and example. Leo has focused his work on trying to mediate the divisions that generate global conflicts, offering messages of unity, peace, and global solidarity. During the first few days of his pontificate, the leader of the Catholic Church has urged the community the international community to stop forced displacement and genocide against the Palestinian people. Pope Leo XIV has also experienced a pontificate that is shaped by the fight for human rights.
I appeal to the international community to observe humanitarian law and respect the obligation to protect civilians, as well as the prohibition of collective punishment, the indiscriminate use of force, and the forced displacement of populations.
Ai nostri amati cristiani medio orientali dico, sono vicino.
To our beloved Middle Eastern Christians, I sympathize with your feeling that there is little you can do in the face of this deranged situation. You are in the heart of the Pope and the whole Church. Thank you for your witness of faith.
Grazie per la vostra testimonianza di fede.
For the fifth year in a row, the nocturnal fountain show of fire lit up the gardens of the Palace of Versailles on Friday night, drawing 16,000 spectators to an evening of music, flames, and aerial choreography.
This time, visitors strolled along the grand perspective and through the groves, where fountains came alive to the works of Lully, Handel, Gluck and Rameau, highlighted by dramatic lighting. Fire artists performed engulfed in monumental flames in the royal gardens, offering a striking contrast to the Baroque music resonating across the historic site.
It's really nice, also because it's on in Versailles, and I know that by night on Saturday they do some spectacles, but in here today is so amazing to see all the fire with all the light, and when the sun is going down, so it looks so amazing. I really like it, so it's a really good spectacle.
The night ended with a spectacular finale, combining drones and fireworks in a dazzling crescendo. Organizers have noted the event's growing international appeal. In 2024, more than 200,000 visitors explored the royal gardens at night to admire this unique spectacle.
It's incredible. It's a slightly different way to rediscover the gardens of Versailles. There's really a great atmosphere, it feels quite family-friendly, and it's truly a very, very good moment we're having.
It's beautiful, the setting is stunning, the fountains, the lighting, the mix of fire and water, it's just sublime. It's a real feast for the eyes, and I can't wait for the rest of the evening.
The nocturnal fountains run every Saturday evening since June 7th through September 20th, with a special edition this August 15th, the Feast of the Assumption.
Well, like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.